Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Sessions with Paola. Today, I have a very special guest, Marla Renee Stewart. Marla and I, I was relocating from Boston. She was relocating from Atlanta, and somehow life brought us together, and we have just found each other in all of these spaces, and I'm super excited to have her here.
Aww.
So thank you for joining us, Marla.
Thank you.
Let me start by introducing this fabulous woman. So Marla Stewart, she's a sexologist and author and a sexual strategist who runs her own sexuality education company, Velvet Lips, and is also the founder of Sex Down South. Guys, this is the 9th year, yes, of Sex Down South, and this is going to be my 2nd year attending, and I can't get enough of it. She has studied human sexuality for over 20 years. She has a bachelor's in psychology and a minor in human sexuality and LGBT studies. She has a master's in sociology with a concentration in gender and sexuality, while also studying for women and gender studies. And she's currently in pursuit of her PhD in clinical sexology from the Modern Therapy Institutes. She co-wrote the book, Ultimate Guide to Seduction and Foreplay, and has done 1,000, almost like more than 1,000 workshops over the world. And I believe that she's just the superwoman of sex educators. So guys, today we're going to take on a topic that comes into my practice often. Marla, I wanted to pick your brain because I know that you have all these amazing workshops about seduction, about teasing the dick. I mean, you name it, right? And so I want to help people because I get a lot of messages for men and for women. I don't know how to initiate sex. Do I do it subtle? Do I do it direct? Especially if the couple has gone through a big transition, like having a baby, or they haven't been sexual for a long time. It becomes a game of like tension, and I don't really know how. And then if the person gets rejected, this closes the doors, and then it's a lot more difficult to get there. So let's start with, what do you think causes people, or how can we help them? So contributors to lack of initiation, and where can they start?
You know, it's interesting because the part where they need to start is actually in the behavior, right? Because if we I don't feel like it, or I'm having some fear, or I'm having anxiety, or I'm having, whatever the case may be, we just need to do the thing. And so I really encourage people to get into their body. And when initiating, I tell them to tap into their alter ego. And this tactic really helps us to see ourselves in a different way, right? So it's a beautiful mirror transference that we see, and that sort of completes us. And so when we think about initiating, if we embody ourselves in our alter ego, we can understand ourselves as a power. Our alter ego is always more confident, right? They're always they always know what to do. They have a plan. You know what they're going to wear. They just become a different person. So embodying that is really, really helpful for people who want to engage in initiating without thinking about the possibility of rejection, right? Because our alter egos are like, you can't reject this, you know what I mean? Like, look at me, look at this, I'm bringing it. And when we bring our sexual selves, I think that is one of the most powerful things we can do. And of course, we are able to do that through sexual confidence, positive affirmations. These are things that we can do every day for ourselves, just to build ourselves up when we're feeling, maybe low, or we're feeling a little rejected by our lovers. So I think it's just really important to understand, we have to work on ourselves every day. But then when it comes to that piece of initiation, embodying your alter ego, whatever your alter ego's name is, and then just going for it, having a plan and making sure it happens.
Oh my God, so many good things here. So 2 things that you said, Marla, how to be in our body, right? When I went to Sex Down South, I saw Goddess Amina, and she said this sentence that I will never forget. She's like, how do we learn to seduce ourselves back into a body in a world that's constantly trying to pull us away from the now? And then you talked about the alter ego, and I would even encourage people to give it a name.
Yes.
Write a letter.
Outfit.
Yes, an outfit.
And I often tell people to anchor themselves in something. Are there earrings? Are there, is it a token? Something that they have in their possession that, when I have that is alter ego. And get your playlist started. What is your bad bitch alter ego playlist? You know what I mean? Or whatever the case may be. So yeah.
And I wonder, because all these things, sound amazing. And I think one of the things that I run a lot in my practice is that there's a lot of people that have never had the space to actually get to know themselves sexually, right? Whether it is because they got negative messages about their body, whether it is because they got negative messages from their upbringing that women are not supposed to wear that and you're not supposed to sit like that. I grew up, in a culture of perfection, right? Where as little girls, we already get that message. Make sure that you cross your legs. Make sure I went to, Catholic school, guys. Every morning they were checking my nails and if my uniform was long enough. So imagine all of these messages that get put in us. So for somebody that's just starting to explore themselves as sexual beings, I love the little anchoring idea. Any other ways in which they could just start? Because you may say, well, what's your alter ego? And people may say, I don't really know. What do you fantasize about? I've never thought about that. What sense do you find erotic? I'm not really sure. So I wonder, what are some things that you can tell people in order for them to start exploring themselves sexually?
Yeah, when you first start thinking about exploring yourself sexually, I really encourage you to pleasure map your own body. I think one of the ways to do that when you're thinking about, okay, if I touch myself, oh, that's a little sensitive there, right? Okay. And just thinking about all the different places where you touch your body or use pressure on your body. So, okay, my touch feels like this. So when somebody else touches me, it might be even a little bit more sensitive. You know what I mean? So thinking about pleasure mapping your whole entire body, your genitals, everywhere, I think is really great. If you have a lover and you're like exploring, or you have someone who's a potential lover, doing a sensate focus, and exploring each other's bodies, I think is a really great tactic to just start, to like, oh, this is what it feels like here. This is what it feels like there. More pressure. And having that feedback is really, really helpful for people. And it helps you to communicate. I also think exploring visually. So sometimes like thinking about porn can come into this, right? And I like, good, ethical, feminist porn to feel like I have to put so many things on the porn part. But I think it can act as a tool to help you see, this is what I like. Oh, this is the thing that turns me on. Oh, this doesn't turn me on. So exploring that kind of porn that comes from your personal gaze, whatever person you are, what gaze that is, like, coming from that perspective, I think is helpful. And that way you can find an idea like, oh, that position looks like it's pleasurable. I mean, we know porn is entertainment, so not everything's going to be pleasurable. Yes. But at least we can start to get some ideas going in our head about what to do next. So fostering the desire. What's really great about fostering desire, though, is I always tell people, there's a celebrity that you like. If that celebrity walked in here, what celebrity is that, and why would you want to sleep with them or have sex with them, right? And I can tell you, everybody can name a celebrity that they enjoy, that they're like, oh yeah, that person, right? I mean, unless they're asexual, but usually it's a person, if they're sexual and they're like, oh no, I know the person that turns me on. So I think coming from that angle too is like, okay, let's think about that celebrity. What do you like about that celebrity? What is it about them, that you really enjoy, right? So I think that can be helpful for fostering desire.
Oh, guys, so many ideas. And I think, when people stop desiring, as you talked about, think of this celebrity and think about, right? Like, guys, remember that desire, and notice that we haven't even used the word sex or penetrative sex. Like, we're not even talking about, everything that we're talking about is about using your senses. Everything about is using your imagination. Esther Perel would say that a crisis of desire is a crisis of the imagination. And so when we think a little bit about what Marla's sharing with us, look at all of these ideas, guys. And I love the body mapping. And another way that you can, when you said you had a lover, draw your body and, let's play the traffic light game, right? Green, yes. Yellow, oh, maybe intrigued, not really sure. Red, right? And draw to see which parts of the body you want touch, which of the parts of the body you're not really sure about. What's important about that game, guys, is to know when it changes from a yellow to a red, right? Because I think being able to say no, being able to have consent when we're doing these activities is really important. You talked about sensei focus. Sensei focus, for those of you out there who don't know, it's a series of exercises, guys. And really the point is to let your fingertips be curious through the body. Sex is not allowed in the first exercises or genitals because there's a lot of pressure, right? And I think with initiation, for men, what shows up a lot, but what if I can't? What if my penis is not erect? What if I'm not able to please? And for women, it's about pleasing. So I find that so many women, Marla, I'm sure you see this as well, have a hard time saying what they like or they don't. The most common thing is, I don't want to hurt your feelings, right? So this idea of communication, and let's be creative, creativity and communication, the two C's. What do you think gets in the way of people asking for what they want? What do you see in your practice?
I think people hesitate because, like you said, they don't want to hurt their partner's feelings, or it's a desire or fantasy that they think their partner is unwilling to fulfill. You know what I mean? And that is sort of the hard part. And so I actually have this activity that I do a lot of times with my couples, is I have them fill out an erotic activity sheet and to circle things that they want to do, put a T next to the things that turn them on, put an X on the things that they're definitely no. And I make them do it in silence. And then I have them trade sheets with each other. Nice. And so they can see what their lover wants to do or wants to try or is turned on by. So then they can start getting an idea sort of in a non-judgmental way of being like, okay, I see what you're into. I didn't know that. You've never told me. We've never had this discussion. And of course, I think having a list of, 100 erotic activities helps, because then it helps propel the mind or think about, desire in different ways. So that's one of the ways that I know I use to help people understand, there are some different things that we might like that we didn't know that each other liked.
Love it. Thank you so much. And talking about, guys, desires that you're not really sure if your partner can fulfill, being non-judgmental. So in the next episode, Marla's going to stay here with me, and we're going to talk a little bit about kink or sensation play, or desires that are a little bit of what we think is normal, which I'm putting that in quotation marks, as you guys noticed. And so, guys, stay tuned. Marla, thank you so much for your info. You have a lot of ideas that you guys need to practice. And guys, if you have any questions, any comments, any thoughts, reach out to us. Marla, where can people find you?
You can find me on my website, velvetlipssexed.com, or marlareneestewart.com, or on Instagram or any social media channel at Velvet Lips Sex Ed, sex without the E, on every social media platform.
Awesome. And we'll have her information on the screen. Guys, so stay tuned for part 2 to get a little bit more ideas about how to start using other types of pleasure and other types of things that are going to get you aroused when you're having a little bit of a hard time initiating or even talking about desires that you may think that your partner is not into. Thank you for listening. Make sure that you're subscribed, and I'll see you soon.